thing that we were looking into. Under Section 4, it says here, extrajudicial killing committed by a public officer, person, authority, agent of a person in authority, or any person who is acting under the actual or apparent authority of the state. What I was discussing with Kongton earlier was that, is there actually an actual authority from the state to commit extrajudicial killing? Maybe there can be an apparent authority from authority of the state, but I have issues with it being an actual authority of the state to commit extrajudicial killing. So I think that that goes together with our earlier discussion.
Wala din eh.
Meron.
Okay, okay. Explore further yung definition and then sa next meeting.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think we should first issue or settle the issue as to whether there is a difference really between murder and extrajudicial killing, because going back to the question or suggestion of the Honorable Chair, if we can make extrajudicial as a mode of killing, as an aggravating circumstance to make it murder, then it's going to have the same effect, because the penalty will be reclusion perpetua, there being no death sentence as of this time, no? So, did it occur to you, your office, whether personal or official opinion, that there's no need to make extrajudicial killing as a separate act, but just instead make it an aggravating circumstance, so that it can be part of the aggravating circumstances already listed in the revised penal code?
Wait, I just want to clarify, it wasn't a suggestion, Kongton. It was a question. I was asking a question. I was asking a question to the OSG earlier. Yes, OSG.
Ay, intent. Sige, sige, go ahead. The intent. Yung intent to kill.
Wait. Let's answer one by one. Madam Chair, regarding the suggestion on whether we can just make it an aggravating circumstance, an addition to the aggravating circumstances to qualify it to murder, our concern with that would be, well, one, if we just make it murder, then we won't have this reparation for victims or EJKs anymore. That's our number at the top of our head. That's our concern. There will be no reparations for victims of EJKs anymore. But my colleague, Attorney Ellie, she has a no. You have a good. She has a good idea. Let's all on this together. Good afternoon, Your Honors. Regarding the issue as to defining the line between murder and EJK, my own personal position on that is the intent would be the defining line, because with murder you have the intention is to kill someone. There's a personal grudge. There's a specific intention, as opposed to EJK, where the killing is how do I say it, kind of a collateral effect of what a public officer wants to happen. So it's they don't the killing is not directed on a specific person. It's unrestrained killings because of a certain goal that needs to be achieved by a certain public officer or a state agent using a color of apparent authority.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Kaya, nagustuhan ko yun, unrestrained killing. Ganito yan eh. I don't know kung nanonood kayo ng aming Qualcomm hearing. No? Mukhang hindi. Anyway, kaya namin nag-iwas yung bill na to. Ganito yan eh. Okay, I asked the former president. Sabi ko sa kanya, because he was actually putting the blame on the policeman that killed him. They should know the law. Yun ang sabi niya eh. No. Ako lang ang nabigay ng policy. So I told the former president, you are a prosecutor at one time. You made a policy, a presidential policy. It's not based on the Constitution. It was only based upon his own personal policy. Ngayon, nung siya nabigay ng ganyang policy, na-involve din yung mga police. Right, to kill. Without even thinking of what the Constitution says. Oo, yun ang unrestrained killing. Maganda yung sinabi niyo, Madam Chair. So may I suggest that we create a TWG, Madam Chair, that would include the OSG, to finally make a study on this so that we could be able to tackle the bill in a most, in a better way, no? Kung may TWG tayo, pag-usapan nyo na muna lahat yan, and then ibalik nyo sa amin lahat ng mga recommendations nyo, and then we could be able to tackle it in a more intelligent way, intelligent way. Hindi kasi ako abogado, no? Although I know certain laws, pero magagaling kayo eh. Magagaling kayo eh.
Well, Madam Chair, I would support the suggestion of Manong Benny, Chairman Abante, about creating a TWG. However, Madam Chair, there's no bill that was referred to this committee that has a separate version when it comes to EJK. So, isa lang po. So, but when Makabayan, maybe by the time that Makabayan proposes a different version of EJK bill, and I guess that's the time that we can consolidate it, perhaps we can create a TWG. But if it's only about the matter of defining what constitutes EJK and perhaps including that phrase, yung nagustuhan ko rin po, unrestrained killings, then with all due respect to Manong, kasi gusto ko po mas mapasa na natin to sa mas madaling panahon, it will cause more delays. So maganda na po for my own personal take, maybe this kind of setting is good
we can
enough.
have another hearing.
Yes.
At the next hearing, they can refine their suggestion.
Yes, wag na lang TWG. Okay lang yun. Para maging madaling ma-approve. In fact, we can now approve it in toto.
Kung Benny, so you withdraw the motion for now?
It's just a suggestion to me kasi meron kasing sinabi ang OSG na maganda eh. No, it's not actually consolidating some bills because it's only one bill actually. Yeah? Pero yung TWG is just resigning it as you would suggest in the other agencies that we have. And afterwards talking about this, pero sabi, mukhang maratagal lang nga tayo eh. So,
Actually do that.
in fact, the motion I'd like to say, Madam Chair, is to approve this in toto.
I think we need another hearing because we have to refine the bill. But yes. Yes, Conference.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As regards sa definition, no? So, mukhang umaayon sa iniisip po namin yung definition o yung description ng EJK. Alam mo yung sinasabi ni Madam Chair ni Congressman Zia, yung tungkol sa merong official na nagbabanta, nagkakaya ng assassin, that is murder. No? Murder yun. Pero yung extrajudicial killings, parang from a policy ng state na ganito tungkol sa halimbawa sa drug on war, meron siyang, yung government official, may nilabas siyang policy. At yun nga, isa na katuparan ng mga enforcers na wala man lang, so lahat na yan, kill. So lahat na makita na, napasama pa yung rewards, di ba? Na ma-aggravate pa dun sa rewards. So yun yung extrajudicial killings na parang lahat na lang ng adik papatayin mo na wala man lang wala man lang benefit ng due process. So yun. Pangalawa, ganun din yung nangyari ni Madam Chair sa mga aktivista na katulad din yan ng mga dahil doon sa EO was that 80? No, yung EO 80 rin ng previous administration na tungkol din sa antay naman sa mga communists or sa mga terrorists or whatever. So, basta na lang pinatay. So, yun yung ganun po. Yung extrajudicial killings na walang benefit talaga ng due process. So, yun po. Pero yung murder, talagang meron ka ng meron ka ng parang individual na intent to kill. No, ito based sa isang policy ng state. So, yun po yung concept namin ng extrajudicial killings. Whether it is war on drugs or it is war against terrorists or war against activists, opposition, and dissenters. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, from the PAO po. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and to the other members of the Honorable Committee, as well as all of us present here. Firstly, the Public Attorney's Office, Your Honor, process no objection. In fact, it's pursuant the passage of the bill under consideration, as this is consonant with the Constitution. And also, the PAO can render free legal services consonant to its mandate, Your Honor, to indigent persons as well as other qualified persons in civil, criminal, and admin cases, Your Honor, subject to our regulations and existing policies as regards to merit tests and indigency tests. I would just also like to voice out my personal opinion, Your Honor, with respect to the matters in consideration. I think I would like to subscribe to the idea that personally, the EJK be considered as a qualifying circumstance under the provision of aggravating circumstance. And if my memory serves me right, we are legislating here, focusing or talking about a specific crime with respect to EJK. The problem is, during the trial, if the prosecution fails to prove the element that it is state-sponsored or through the intervention of any public officer, then what will happen to the case? What will happen to the accused? He will be acquitted. So I think we have to focus on the criminal act. I don't know if my understanding is correct, although we have a supplementary provision with respect to the proposed bill that RPC will be supplementarily applicable in this case. I don't think the case will be downgraded to homicide if the prosecution fails to establish sufficient evidence to prove that there is EJK. Unlike, for example, in murder, if he fails to prove the following five circumstances of treachery, then it will be downgraded to homicide. That's all, Your Honor. Then we can also legislate a separate bill with respect to reparation. It's qualifying circumstances.
Arlene was going to file a separate bill on reparations. You mentioned it to me. Pero hindi niya pa
Madam Chairman,
Yeah.
I am just bothered by the previous statement of the OSG. And now it's coming up again by the PAO about reparation, making it a separate bill. Is that what you are saying, Madam Chair?
Yes, parang may suggestion.
But it's not reparation. Part of the accessory penalty whenever there is a conviction or a judgment in a case. If you look at Section 38 of the Revised Penal Code, it's one of the pecuniary liabilities of a person accused of a crime. And whether it's reparation and indemnification. So why are you saying now that there is no reparation if we do not make this a law and just make it a aggravating circumstance that will make it murder, and therefore a penalty to be meted is reclusion perpetua. So what difference does it make? Is it your admission now that is it your position now that there is no reparation in
Section.
this measure if we do not make that a EJK bill, EJK law?
Your Honor,
Go ahead.
the concern that we raised earlier was just that, but I understand, yes, we understand, we see where the good lawyer from the Public Attorney's Office is coming from. But what we said earlier lang po was that if we don't couch it as an EJK anymore? Why will we have a reparations board for EJK victims when when we will just make them murder victims? So will we have a reparations for murder victims specifically for this aggravating circumstance? But to answer po, Panero, we agree. We see, yeah, that's right. We see where you're coming from. Kasi generally, hindi nga mada-downgrade, no? But that's a good point in the sense that we could may perhaps include po sa draft bill something to the effect like let's say the revised penal codes is still could be applied suppletorily or something to the there is okay, but something to the effect of my colleague here mentioned, di ba po, like sa 7610 acts of lasciviousness and everything,
Kasi ito eh.
di ba pwede siya, depende how the information is couched,
Definition, technical.
di ba, if we can't prove the elements in 7610, as long as the information is couched broadly enough to also include the elements in acts of lasciviousness and RPC, pwede pa rin siyang ma-convict doon. Hindi ba, Panero? Please correct me if I'm wrong. You get what I'm saying? Like 7610, acts of lasciviousness, RPC, as long as the information is couched in a way that pasok pa rin yung elements ng RPC, acts of lasciviousness, pwede pa rin siyang ma-convict sa acts of lasciviousness under the RPC if hindi na-prove yung 7610.
Okay.
And
yes,
that's how
ma'am.
Yes, I also agree. So long as there is a clarification or there is a specific or clear provision stated in the proposed bill.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to, well, compared to cases filed in court, there's a mention there that this particular accused is being accused of for violation of in relation to RA 7610. So he is fully informed of the nature of the case filed against him. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
then we
that's a
can have
good
that,
suggestion.
yes. Thank you.
Something like that. Okay.
Kung Samora? Okay. Nag-i-enjoy kayo na nag-uusap. Nakalimutan nyo na Okay.
Madam Chair, so
Yes, Council.
Madam Chair, so is it now the position, is it still the position of the OSG that we should go ahead with this as an EJK bill or law? So not accepting or giving a prospect that we can just make this as an aggravating circumstance?
Okay.
So what is the position?
OSG, pakisagot yung tanong ni Kong Acharon.
Madam Chair, Your Honor, state solicitors lang po kasi kami, but we will bring that up po to our surgeon.
Anyway, we will have another hearing. So maybe when you come back next time, you will consider these questions, no? These issues. Sige.
Sure. Because I'm mentioning about the surgeon thing or appearance in this committee. Earlier, your office is represented by two associate solicitor. Now, you now come in full force with your two state solicitors. I think three now. So I hope we would be able to hit the reminder or the warning of the chairman that when there is a committee hearing like this, we should be favored, the committee should be favored with the appearance of the head of office so that we can have a speedy disposition of relevant or material issues pertaining to the legislated or to the thing that we are legislating here in the committee.
Yes, because earlier today the OSG representative could not answer any questions. In our invitation, we allowed authorized representatives to appear instead of the head of agency, as long as that authorized representative can answer the questions of the committee members. So I issued a warning to the OSG that next time we won't be so kind. If you know what I mean.
No.
Yes. That's why we are happy that you are participating and answering our questions. Kasi kanina, walang masagot yung taga-OSG. They came from your office. I don't know if under you or...
Oh, no. Madam Chair, what happened is that they said the position paper of the OSG was not yet finalized. That's why they were hesitant to speak up or provide any comments.
But it says in our invitation that
Yeah,
you should be
I
able
understand.
to answer the questions.
Yes, Madam Chair, just to explain po how it goes po in the OSG po kasi, like for example, the bill on the civil forfeitures is assigned to 2 divisions. And then this bill on EJK is assigned to 2 divisions. That's the division I belong to, and Ellie belongs to the 2nd division. So we were assigned by our ASGs to attend today, as opposed to the 2 divisions regarding civil forfeiture. That's who they assigned.
In other words, mas magaling yung division ninyo.
Parang ganun na po. Joke lang po. Joke lang po. Strike from the...
Okay. Anyway, OSG, wala na kayong, so far, yun na lang yung ano nyo muna, no? So that we can listen to the other resource persons also. Anyway, we'll have a second hearing eh.
Sinasabi ni Ton, we don't contact.
Okay. Sige. CHR.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Your Honors. Our apologies because we did not yet submit our position paper on this bill, but I was instructed by my chairperson just before I came here that because the term itself, EJK, is under consideration by the SEB come Friday, and likewise the definition or the description. But in the Commission on Human Rights, we already have what we call our definition in our glossary, and during the 5th Commission, we also have our description or the list of cases under EJK, but focus on the drug war. But we already have a stand on the EJK claims board, if I may be allowed
Can you
to.
share it with us, please?
Yes, Your Honors, we will.
Meron sila.
Our definitions, Your Honor, the EJK and that of the EJK under the 5th Commission. But before proceeding, Your Honor, may I just be allowed to comment on the explanatory note considering the report of the Commission on Human Rights was quoted. This is with regard to the numbers actually. Yung last part lang po, because this is a report focusing on the extrajudicial killings that we investigated during the time of the 5th Commission. But it says here that we only investigated 846 cases. But actually, Your Honors, during that time, we investigated 3,805 cases of EJKs, but this report more or less took samples of these cases because it would really be a gargantuan task if we will really assess all these cases, this almost 4,000 cases. So actually there were 822 sample cases. So baka pwede pong i-correct lang considering this is actually an official report of the Commission on Human Rights.
Yes, Madam Chair, we took note of the observation of CHR, Madam. We will do the appropriate corrections, Madam Chair.
Thank you po. Okay. The Commission generally supports and welcomes House Bill 10986 as a pivotal step toward ensuring the primacy of human rights and the inviolability of human dignity. But with regard to the term and that of its definition, we have yet to submit our position paper, Your Honors. But with regard to the creation of an EJK claims board, we already submitted our position paper in previous committee hearings, Your Honor. So I would just read, if I may, the recommendation of the Commission on the Claims Board. The Commission strongly advocates for the proposed establishment of Claims Board as an essential mechanism for recognizing and addressing the harms suffered by victims of extrajudicial killings and their families. Nonetheless, the Commission emphasizes the critical need for the board attached to the Commission to operate as a separate and independent entity, because looking at the bill itself, parang under po kasi siya sa one of the units of CHR. Parang this one is akin to the Human Rights Victim Claims Board para po for operational efficiency, and considering we do not have the human resource really to how do you say this, tackle all the applicants or the claims of the victim's family. As an independent but attached claims board, it will allow operational efficiency by leveraging the Commission's resources, expertise, and institutional support while maintaining autonomy in decision-making. Furthermore, an independent claims board aligns with the principle of checks and balances. It provides victims and their families with confidence that their cases will be handled with integrity and impartiality, which is especially important in addressing sensitive and complex human rights violations like extrajudicial killings. We also have our other recommendations, additional, not stated in the proposed bill po. Transparency and accountability measure. The Commission recommends the inclusion of additional safeguards such as mandatory reporting of EJK cases to the CHR, to ensure the principles of transparency and accountability are upheld in every stage of the investigative and prosecutorial process. Likewise, the Commission emphasizes the need to ensure that proposed law includes provisions mandating rigorous independent investigations and the protection of witnesses to guarantee the integrity of the prosecution process. That's all with regard to the claims board. So we really would want it to be attached but independent to the CHR.
Just to clarify, yung sinasabi mong board, is that already existing?
Yung pong dati po, it is akin to the Human Rights Victims Claims Board po. So nag-ano din ang commission doon, separate po siya sa amin.
So, can you submit that in writing so that we can
Yes po, we will.
study it? Thank you. Next, National Security Council, may representative.
Sige, okay. Good afternoon po, Madam Chair, members of the committee, and our colleagues from the government service and other resource speakers in the House po. Good afternoon po. From the National Security Council, we have already submitted our position paper
Please
last.
identify yourself and your designation.
Sorry, I am Attorney Angelica Gonzalez, a legal analyst po of the National Security Council. Together with me, Director Monico Batle, Director of the Security and Clearance.
Okay, please proceed.
All right. Madam Chair, we already submitted our position paper last December 3, and we do join the manifestation that there might be a need to reword or recalibrate the meaning of EJK under the present bill po. Your Honor.
Did you, in your position paper, was there a suggestion as to the definition?
We did not include a definition, our own definition po of EJK, as we want to consider and to hear po other definitions coming from other.
So now that you've heard the other agencies, can you submit a suggestion for the next hearing?
Yes, Your Honor, we will submit our own definition po.
Kong Zia, do you have a question?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'd like to know what's the position of the National Security Council. Do you interpose no objection? Do you support the bill?
We do support po this effort, but we interpose on that there's a need to reword or recalibrate for the meaning of the EJK.
I think that's a common opinion of all the agencies that we have heard so far, that they just want to refine the definition. Sige.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I do not have any problem in refining the definition, no? Pero palagay ko naman malinaw na ang kaibahan dito sa murder, yung illegal order eh. Di ba? yung illegal policies is actually unconstitutional. And that is what is the difference between EJK and murder. Yung qualifying sa murder, kasama dun sa EJK eh. Ang pagkakaiba lang nito, ginawa ito ng mga agents of authority on the basis of an illegal policy, legal order. Yun ang pagkakaiba eh.
Okay. Okay, so
Let me ask Madam Chair, the OSG, what they think about what I said.
back to OSG tayo. Favorite kayo ngayon ng mga members, sige.
Magagaling sila.
Sir, since medyo major, po yun, decision siya on our part, I think we have to confer with our office first. And then we will, all your, suggestions and your, are noted, and we will get back to you to answer.
For the next hearing, yeah.
Yeah, we would like to ask the OSG, the Commission on Human Rights, for example, the NSA, no, in not only in submitting your proposals, but also to fast track this, no, because we do not want to delay the approval of this bill. Kasi 8 sessions na lang kami next year eh. Oo. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
AFP,
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and to the members of the Honorable Committee. The AFP wish to state that we are fully committed in respecting, promoting, and fulfilling human rights. It continually engages with the Commission on Human Rights on reports of alleged human rights violation and submits its personnel for investigation before the concerned agencies, including the Department of Justice, the Office of the Ombudsman, NBI, and the Philippine National Police. By the way, Madam Chair, I am Captain Anthony Cabarteja, the Chief of the Advocacy and Research Branch and Legal Officer of the AFP Center for Law of Armed Conflict. And we appeal to this Honorable Committee to give us sufficient time to consult the other appropriate offices of the Armed Forces of the Philippines to present our official position on the subject. The process of obtaining inputs, subsequent deliberation, and drafting of official position on the matter may take a longer period for the Armed Forces of the Philippines. This is why we venture to give our initial inputs to the House Committee during the hearing to put context on our stand to the proposed bill. May I just share one question, Your Honor? If a public official committed killing in official capacity or not in official capacity, is it considered as an AJK?
under the definition.
Madam Chair, napakadaling eh. Under EJK, if he did it
Basta.
on the basis of an illegal order, yun a policy that is against the Constitution, yun ang pagkakaiba doon.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Lahat ng magsasubmit ng position paper, no? I'm giving you until next week, a week from today. Today is Wednesday. So, kailangan by the 18th, all position papers have been submitted already. Wala nang excuse.
Yes, Madam Chair. We submit to it. Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, PNP,
Madam Chair, good afternoon. To the other members of this committee, another resource person, good afternoon po. From the PNP side, ma'am, we are in support of this proposed bill. However, we have these following comments and recommendations for consideration.
dito.
May I be allowed to read, ma'am?
Sige.
While the bill characterizes extrajudicial killings as deliberate and arbitrary killings that lack the authorization of a prior judicial judgment, it is strongly recommended to establish a clear legal and conceptual distinction between EJKs and other crimes such as homicide and murder. This differentiation is essential for understanding the gravity and unique implications of actions committed by public officers in the performance of their duties as opposed
to ordinary criminal acts. There is often a blurred line between legitimate law enforcement activities, such as arrest or acts of self-defense, and instances of extrajudicial killings, particularly when excessive force or procedural lapses are involved. In such situations, the intent and context of the actions must be carefully examined. The proposed bill should address the critical legal issue of determining whether a death resulted from an intentional act of unlawful killing or was an unintended consequence of a legitimate operation. Establishing clear guidelines in this regard is essential to ensure fairness and accountability. And lastly, on the provision of under Section 9, which titled Presumption of Administrative Negligence, we respectfully suggest the establishment of a clear and objective parameters for the Commission on Human Rights in assessing administrative negligence among public officials in relation to EGKs. Such clarity is crucial as the presumption of negligence carries significant implications for public officers tasked with maintaining order and safety. Properly defined parameters will help prevent undue presumption of fault while ensuring accountability for genuine lapses in duty. That would be all, ma'am, for the PNP.
Is that a written position paper?
Not yet, ma'am, but we will
1
submit.
week, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Next, NAPOLCOM, and then we'll listen to NUPL and Karapatan. So, NAPOLCOM, may representative ba dito?
Good afternoon po, Madam Chair. Attorney Bustonera po, Director for Legal Affairs of the NAPOLCOM. Our apologies for not having submitted a written position paper, but kindly allow me to discuss our position po on the matter. Firstly, allow us to state for the record that we support the passage of the proposed bill, which provides for a comprehensive legal framework to combat extrajudicial killings. We submit 3 points for consideration of the committee. The first one is on the presumption of administrative negligence. Similar with the position of the PNP, we would like to state that it is our recommendation that a clear delineation and factors be stated to quote-unquote quantify an increase in EJKs. We recommend that a baseline or threshold number of incidents be established. If not, a specific time period during which the increase must have occurred should be established. And third, there should be a clear criteria for determining whether the increase is attributable to administrative negligence rather than external factors. Second, on the aspect of administrative negligence as well, we would like to clarify whether the public officers intended to be charged with administrative negligence should include public officers in charge of public order and safety and the local chief executives, or are they in the alternative? We take note of the fact that local government units have their own departments of public order and safety. So will the department head of the depots be charged in case there is noted increase in EJK in the specific areas? And thirdly, ma'am, with respect to the discussion on preventive suspension, this is not pending criminal action. This is not a new matter. This is actually provided in Section 47 of RA 6975 and discussed by the Supreme Court in the case of Himagan versus People of the Philippines. To quote the Supreme Court, it states there that the reason why members of the PNP are treated differently from other classes of persons charged criminally or administratively insofar as the application of the rule on preventive suspension is concerned is that policemen carry weapons and the badge of the law which can be used to harass or intimidate witnesses against them. If a suspended policeman criminally charged with a serious offense is reinstated to his post while his case is pending, his victim and the witnesses against him are obviously exposed to constant threat and thus easily cowed to silence by the mere fact that the accused is in uniform and armed. Thus, the imposition of preventive suspension for over 90 days under Section 47 of RA 6975 does not violate the suspended policeman's constitutional right to equal protection of the laws. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So next,
Madam Chair, let me respond. That's the reason why we need the EJK. Diba? Napolcom, nasa inyo ba? Nasa ilalim niyo ba ang yes?
No, sir. The IES is under the office of the Chief PNP.
Okay.
Yes.
okay. Okay. So next, the NUPL.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and the members of the committee. Thank you for inviting us. First, we welcome the introduction of this bill because we believe that it is the opportunity for us to fine-tune the distinction between murder, as currently defined in the revised penal code, and extrajudicial killings. And based on our abundant experience as lawyers for victims of human rights violations, including extrajudicial killings, one of the key differences lies in the effect, not only in the surviving families of those killed, but also in the communities where they come from. Because when someone falls victim to EJK, it creates a killing effect on the community that victims who are frequently human rights defenders, political activists, and those who voice out their criticisms and dissent against the government. So I think it's very important to recognize that through this law. And I agree with Rep. Abante that we can benefit from going back to the explanatory note as to guide us in further refining the definition of EJK, because here there is a mention of the fulfillment of human rights. And I think it's important to go back to what is at the center or at the heart of this bill, and that is the right to life. And the state is the primary duty bearer in protecting the right to life. That's why when EJKs happen, there is already a violation of the public trust that the state actors and government officials enjoy or by virtue of their office. Now, may we just state we apologize because we have not yet submitted our position paper, but we will within the coming week. But we note that there are several, we would like to share our comments. First off, based on our observation from experience and as according to international law, senior officials may be responsible for EJKs, and it is recognized in this bill. So this is a welcome recognition. And they are responsible not only for direct orders, but also for failing to prevent or punish unlawful killings by subordinates under their control. And this carries two implications. First, in terms of liability. We are pushing for the adoption of command responsibility as provided in the Anti-Enforced Disappearance Law and also under the IHL, the Domestic or the Philippine IHL Act or RA 9851. And also, extraordinary diligence must be required of law enforcement authorities, persons in authority, and their agents in the discharge of their duties so that these officers will be stopped or disabled from invoking the nanlaban narrative and using the use of lethal force to exempt them from criminal liability. Yes, that would be it. For now, Your Honors.
Can you also help with the definition? Do you have any suggestions?
Yes, thank you for asking. Yes, we would like to.
Yes, can you submit your, so that we can consolidate all these suggestions and we can show the authors and
Yes.
maybe we could come up with one that everyone would agree on.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank
We'll
you.
gladly.
And then karapatan.
Yeah, Madam Chair, maybe also further explain to us and maybe put that in your position paper how we can resolve the issue. Kanina po yung sinabi ko kasi yung command responsibility. I think that concept maybe can be properly addressed. At least ma-distinct natin yung culpability nung nagbibigay ng utos, no? I think mas maganda rin po yun na ma-include nyo sa position paper ninyo para ma-enhance further yung bill.
Can you include that also in your?
Yes, we
You
will.
mentioned about the command responsibility. You reference a certain law, di ba?
Yes, to
Okay,
laws, to domestic laws.
Okay, thank you. And then karapatan.
Magandang araw po, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Nakapag-submit na po kami ngayon lang po ng position paper, and because of the interesting discussions also sa committee hearing ngayon, magsasubmit po ulit kami para makatulong pa, informed by the discussions of the committee right now. But first and foremost, of course, we acknowledge po this proposed measure as a very important step, no, to define the crime of extrajudicial killings, dahil we've been using it for so long because it has happened also for so long, no? And we actually developed our own definition as reflected in our glossary. Like Commission on Human Rights po, meron po kaming human rights glossary as a human rights organization. And sa totoo lang po, we also participated in a similar discussion on the anti-enforced disappearance law. Because, sa anti-enforced disappearance law po, ano yung difference ng enforced disappearance sa kidnapping or deprivation of liberty? Dito po, we think it's the same. So, I'd like to state our working definition of extrajudicial killings. Actually, it's a combination of the existing definition under Republic Act number 11188, the Law on Special Protection of Children in Situations of Armed Conflict, and the elements in the definition of the Anti-Enforced Disappearance Law. Extrajudicial killings refer to all acts and omissions of state actors that constitute the violation of the general recognition of the right to life embodied in international and domestic human rights instruments, which are committed by the state, by agents of the state, or by persons or groups acting with the authorization, support, or acquiescence of the state. So, talagang sa discussions din po namin noon sa TWG on the Anti-Enforced Disappearance Law, what differentiates it from murder is the imprint of the state. Yung ibig sabihin, done by state actors with authorization, support, or acquiescence of those in public positions. Secondly, we support what Attorney Joseph NUPL said on command responsibility. We have existing jurisprudence po at sa batas din po ng 9851 at saka sa 10353, may mga provisions on liability of commanding officer or superior in the commission of the so-called crime of enforced disappearance or violations of international humanitarian law. So we propose that we consider provisions of those two laws in terms of liabilities, no? And bearing in mind also yung doctrine of command responsibility as defined in the decision of the Supreme Court on the petition for the writ of amparo and habeas data dun po sa kaso ni Noriel Rodriguez. Meron pong dinefine doon ang Korte Suprema tungkol sa saklaw ng command responsibility. Lastly na lang po, yung tungkol po sa provision sa Section 9 on presumption of administrative negligence, may exception po kasing binanggit dyan dun sa areas declared by proper government authority as areas of conflict or combat zones. Tingin ko namin, Madam Chair, may existing law po tayo ngayon, yung tungkol po sa international humanitarian law that covers yung areas or any violation na sa areas of conflict or combat zones. Ito po yung 9851, no? Kaya kailangan po maging consistent po yung proposed bill na ito doon po sa domestic law na existing. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat po.
Madam Chair, salamat sa pagpapaliwanag mo, Ms. Palabay. No? I think it's very important. Pagkat nung pinapanood ko itong hearing nito, may mga comment na akala nila itong EJK na ito ay ginawa lamang specifically dahil lang sa mga nangyari ng past administration. Hindi na eh. Yun ay specifically doon lamang sa mga drug victims. Hindi eh. binanggit mo yung human rights defenders, may mga doktor tayo mga pinatay, meron tayo mga media na mga pinatay, meron tayo mga lawyers na mga pinatay, na hindi kasama doon sa dating administrasyon. Ibig sabihin, kung may EJK na tayo, bago yung dating administrasyon, sana hindi nangyari itong mga bagay nito, no? Kaya talagang matagal na dapat ng bitas na ito. So, we'd like to find out, kasi alam mo, pinapanood tayo ng taong bayan dito eh. Gusto ko lang po malaman ng taong bayan, Madam Chair, na itong bitas na ito hindi lamang tinutukoy ang past administration. Kundi tinutukoy rito lahat ng mga napapatay, yan man ay drug victims, yan man ay human rights defenders, yan man ay abogado o doktor, lahat na pinapatay out of an illegal order. Pinapatay po na hindi sang-ayon sa saligang batas. Yun po ang gusto ko yung ipakita sa taong bayan natin. Kaya meron tayong EJK bill na ito. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are you done? Yes, Miss Palabay.
Madam Chair, magbibigay lang ako comments sa binanggit ni Kong Abante. Marami pong salamat. Totoo po yun. Bago pa naman po yung nakaraang administrasyon, nagaganap na po talagang extrajudicial killing sa bansa. In fact, marami po taong simbahan, mga development workers, kahit po yung human rights workers namin. Kaya malaki din po yung at stake namin dito sa bill na to. Tama po yun. Nagpa-file po kami ng murder, ng kaso ng murder, no, pero it doesn't quite fit the bill no, kasi hindi naman po ito acts of committed acts of one person to another. These are acts we think of persons in authority, no, dun po sa isang human rights worker who is documenting and reporting on human rights violations cases. So, sa totoo lang po, we think this is long overdue. That is correct. And such a law will not only recognize, put a name, no? Doon po sa dati ay tinatawag na salvaging, di po ba? May tawag dyan, salvaging, summary execution, assassination, etc. But also, it would provide a clear guideline or a standard sa ating pong paggugobyerno tungkol po dito. Last naman po, Madam Chair, nag-agree po kami na yung reparations po ay magkaroon ng hiwalay na bill, batas tungkol dito. Naging part din po kami ng discussion sa Human Rights Victims Recognition and Reparations Law. Marami pong kailangan sigurong include pa na transitional justice mechanisms doon po sa binubunong reparations bill. At doon po, may standard na din po kasi tayo, yung HRVV. No? So yung mga ko-consider na lang po kung ano yung sa manggagaling yung appropriations. At the same time, ang maganda po doon, may relative independence po kasi ang isang claims board na katulad nun na hindi naka-attach lang sa Commission on Human Rights. Dahil as it is not right now, I understand, talagang mabigat na rin yung inaano ng CHR. And then HRBB claims board before, na may independent function and operations, nakatulong po ng malaki yon para po dun sa pagbibigay po ng reparations, monetary or non-monetary reparations sa martial law victims. Yun lang po.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes po.
kanina binanggit ni Ms. Balaba yung compensation, yung reparation. Narinig ko yung tanong ng DILG kanina. Saan DILG? May nagtanong kanina kung saan manggagaling ng reparation. Police, manggagaling sa inyo ng reparation. Natural, di ba? Pag AFP, pag sundalo, manggagaling sa AFP o Department of National Defense. Huwag kayong mag-alala. Pag naging batas to, we will provide the funding for that. So yun mga ayon siya. Kaya huwag kayo matatakot ng bigay ng reparations. Okay?
I think sa bill ninyo, Kong Benny, merong appropriation provision, yes. Okay. So last three na lang tayo na na agencies, NBI, PAO, and then last of course yung DPL. NBI, please identify yourself.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and to the honorable members of the committee, and also those who are present in this committee hearing. Our apologies, Madam Chair, that we haven't yet submitted our position paper. Madam Chair, may I be allowed to read some of the
Yes, go ahead and you can.
it is from position paper, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Extrajudicial killings or extrajudicial execution is a deliberate killing of an individual by a state agent or with their consent without previous judgment affording judicial guarantees such as due process and impartial procedure. The form of killings is contrary to the legal obligation of the state to protect the right to life. Such arbitrary deprivations of life often target political opponents, activists, or marginalized groups. In our jurisdiction, extrajudicial killings were rampant during the war on drugs. It targeted the drug dealers and users. However, as can be gleaned from news reports and ongoing investigation, most of the victims of the war on drugs were the poor. Most of the victims of the anti-drug campaign were people in the low-income bracket or the marginalized groups. The apparent disregard of this fundamental right by the state, who is tasked to protect the life and liberty of the Filipino people, clearly indicates the decline of the morality of the government officials and law enforcement agents, resulting in the loss of confidence by citizens in the justice system of our country. In view thereof, the National Bureau of Investigation, the premier investigative agency of the country, is an ardent supporter and enforcer of state policies to maintain peace and order, protect life, liberty, and property, and promote the general welfare of the Filipino people. Extrajudicial killings present a threat to the inherent right of every human being, the right to life. The NBI firmly believes that House Bill 10986 will help in upholding the right of every person to have his life respected and deter the arbitrary deprivation of this fundamental right. The House Bill will strengthen the commitment of the state under international law to protect, respect, and fulfill human rights, which entails the protection of individuals and groups against human rights abuses. It is mandated that in the performance of duty, the state law enforcement agents shall respect and protect human dignity and uphold the human rights of all persons. No law enforcement agent shall inflict, instigate, or tolerate extrajudicial killings, arbitrary arrest, any act of torture, or other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. The NBI hereby expresses its full support to the House Bill, which will classify and penalize extrajudicial killing. Rest assured, the NBI will continue to uphold and advocate the right of every individual to life. That's all, Madam Chair.
Once again, with that, Your Honors, I would just like to reiterate our position, Your Honor, that our Lord, Your Honor, the Honorable Committee, its effort, Your Honor, to pass this particular legislation, Your Honor. That's all, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
Lastly, DBM.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I'm Trisha Barante from the DBM. The honorable members of this committee and to our fellow public servants. Regarding po this bill on the organization, we respectfully suggest po to review and assess and harmonize po the functions of the existing bodies po. Kasi under the DOJ, meron na po tayong Board of Claims and sa CHR to ensure po to identify the gaps, to ensure na wala pong overlapping ng functions and areas to be strengthened, and of course duplication po ng funding for the purpose. Kasi currently under the CHR po, meron po tayong financial assistance to victims, which I think overall naman po this pertains to human rights. And under the budget of the DOJ, meron din po tayong funding for implementing Admin Order 35, which includes extralegal killings po. So, yun po yung first on the organization. And then, on the funding requirements po, we take note po under RA 7309, ang funding source po niya ay from PAGCOR and yung proceeds from disposition of military camps in Metro Manila by BCDA, etc. Para po hindi ma-bloat po yung ating fiscal space kung sa GAA po siya ilalagay, especially hindi naman po natin alam, hindi naman po siguro yearly may claims po yung reparation for the victims. So baka we can consider po as funding source itong under RA 7309. That's all po.
Anyway, that
Madam
that will have to pass the Appropriations Committee. Yes,
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask DOJ, is it true? Meron pala kayong compensation reparation board for victims of extra legal killings?
Yes,
Ano yung sabi mo niyo po, DBM? Extra
I was
Tricia?
gonna ask that, Kong Zia, kasi merong interagency committee on extra legal killings, enforced disappearances, torture, and other grave violations of the right to life, liberty, and security of persons. Bali, interagency yan, pero ang lead agency is DOJ.
What exactly do you do? Kasi this one is very specific, Madam Chair, kasi we are trying to define legal parameters on what EJK what constitutes EJK. Yes.
Honorable Chair, if I may po.
Yes, go
Regarding po sa comment ni DBM regarding the claims board, ito po yung RA 7309. However, it does not specifically mention po yung EJK lang, but it pertains to victims of violent and heinous crimes. And on the other hand naman po, yung binanggit po na AO 35, it was issued back then nung time pa ni President Pinoy, which is the creation of an interagency committee on extralegal killings, EDs, torture, and other grave violation of human rights. We have issued its operational guidelines in 2012, wherein it defined where it uses the term extralegal killings. If I may read.
Maybe, yes, Madam Chair, the way I understand it, Madam Chair, is that extralegal killings may be a result of a torture, no? Parang, I don't know, pero kasi ito, extrajudicial killings is primarily, it's essentially, Madam Chair, about killings, those allegedly na mga na hindi binigyan ng due process, na hindi na kuhanan ng korte. Tama ho ba, DOJ, no?
Well,
parang ganun yung sa inyo?
That's one of them, pero meron din sa definition niya, meron ding if the person responsible for the killing is a state agent or non-state agent. So, nandun din yung person responsible sa definition nila na extra legal killings.
Tama po, tama rin. Yung the same ba? Like yung sa extrajudicial killing, essentially parang ito yung pag allegedly, no, kasi yung mga biktima supposedly dapat sinasabi nila may mga criminal din, so pinapatay, yung iba hindi nakakasuhan. Ibig sabihin hindi siya dumaan sa proper procedure na kung saan yung due process na-exercise or na-observe nung ano, the same ba yung sa inyo dyan sa interagency ninyo? Ay, sorry.
Extralegal killings refer to it identified the victims, such as when the victim is a member or affiliated with an organization affiliated with the political, environmental, labor organizations, advocate of such causes, or those who are mistakenly identified regarding such, or another one is the victim was targeted and killed because of actual or perceived membership, advocacy, or profession. The responsible or the perpetrators are state agent or non-state agent, and the method and circumstances of the attack reveals a deliberate and intent to kill. That is based on AO 35 po.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.